Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Steve Gregorian. I'm the President and CEO of the Detroit Economic Club. I'd like to welcome you to today's meeting and a special welcome to our DEC members. So let's get started. It's a great day at the DEC. Let's start by just kindly asking you to silence your cell phone so you do not disturb today's program. And you've been with us before, you know that we love to begin by honoring our country with the Pledge of Allegiance. So I'd just ask you to stand and join me, and the flag is to my right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. And kindly be seated. A quick but important thank you to Detroit Public TV and Lawrence Technological University for partnering with us on today's live webcast. You've been with us before. You know we love having high school and college students with us at every one of our meetings. Today is no exception. Thanks to the generosity of our corporate sponsors, the Students' Day already began with a private reception and Q&A session with the governor. So I want to take a quick minute and let you know who's in attendance with us. So today we've got students from Schoolcraft College, compliments of Adam Robbins and Accenture. Grosse Pointe South High School, thanks to Angie Kelly and the great folks at EY. Thurston High School, thanks to Claude Molinari and ASM Global. Carlson High School, thank you, Sachin Varma and EHIM. Hazel Park High School, thank you to Dex Batista and Magna International. Birmingham Groves Falcons, thanks to John Young and Oakland University. Detroit Collegiate Prep, thank you, Bill Pop and Dell. And River Rouge High School, thanks to Michelle Echevetti and Willis Towers Watson. How about a round of applause to welcome the students, thank the sponsors. I'd love to take a minute to tell you about the incredible history of the Detroit Economic Club. Governor Whitmer now joins a distinguished list of Michigan governors who have addressed the DEC on 47 separate occasions, along with 22 other governors of other states in the U.S. These include very recognizable names such as Romney, Milliken, Rockefeller, Bush, and Clinton. So today we are pleased to add Governor Whitmer as our 70th governor to address the DEC in our 86-year history. Congratulations to Governor Whitmer. Let's talk Twitter. If you're a tweeter, we want you to tweet today using @DebtEconomicClub. And finally, one of the more popular elements of our programs is we get to hear from you. In the final few minutes of our program, the governor's agreed to answer your questions, and you can use your smartphone to submit those questions. Instructions were on the screen earlier. And those questions will now make their way to our presiding officer, who I'm about to put to work. Dan Lepp is President and CEO of Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan. He's a board member and a great friend to the Detroit Economic Club, and also a huge supporter of many, many things in our community, region, and state. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Dan Lepp.
Afternoon, everybody. I was thinking about my introduction today, and the term timeliness comes to mind for me. If you look at the function and the impact of the Detroit Economic Club, timeliness really is a good term for it, because no matter what the issue is, whether it's politics, business, technology, economics, or current events, I think Steve and his team do a great job at bringing all of us timely information and speakers on whatever the issue of the day is, or the issue of the year, and they do a great job. So Steve, thanks to you and the team. As Steve mentioned, a lot of governors have been here. This is the governor's first address as the governor of the state of Michigan to the Detroit Economic Club, and her address today is certainly a timely one. You know, the last 2 weeks have been quite busy for the governor, and right in the forefront on a lot of things. First of all, her State of the State address to the legislature and the people of Michigan. Then earlier this week, she gave the Democratic response to the State of the Union address at East Lansing High School, which I mentioned to the governor that whoever came up with that idea deserves a raise, because I think it was just a great venue for her to give that address. And even more poignant, the fact that both Sherry and Sydney, her daughters, go to East Lansing High School, and to be able to do that is pretty cool. And then, of course, yesterday she presented the budget to the legislature and the people of the state of Michigan. So I would say that there's, I'm sure, plenty for her to talk to us about. And so I'm going to get out of the way and introduce the 49th governor of the great state of Michigan, Gretchen Whitmer.
Thank you. Thank you. I am very pleased to be here with all of you. So thank you so much for that introduction, Dan, Steve, and the board of directors. Thank you for the invitation. I am thrilled to be here. And as Dan mentioned, it's been kind of a whirlwind 2 weeks. I got to tell you, there were days where I thought, is it Friday yet? Is the Iowa caucus over yet? It's not, I know, but it is Friday, so that's good. So I am so pleased to be here with you. I wanted to take this opportunity to talk with some of the most, I think, persuasive leaders in our state in this room, and to tell you a little bit about where I'm hoping that we are headed and where we are able to some meaningful work done this year. You know, people will often say, oh, election years, not much is going to happen. Well, mark my words, we're going to get a lot done this year. And I'm hopeful that everyone in this room is ready to roll up your sleeves and work with me to get this done. I am joined today by a couple of people from my administration. One is Chris Kolb, who is the state budget director, who introduced the budget yesterday, and Jeff Donofrio, who is the head of labor and economic opportunity. I stole him from the city of Detroit. So they are both here with me, and they do a phenomenal job in this cabinet. So over the past few weeks, I put an agenda on the table that will help fix our roads, that will make meaningful investments in the education of our kids and thus the outcomes for our children, to improve Michigan safe, clean drinking water, and to combat climate change, and to close the skills gap. No matter where I go in the state, these are the fundamentals I know that people in our state and businesses in our state are counting on us. And so I've offered up some real concrete solutions that are going to make a difference in people's lives and do so quickly. This will help us grow our economy and ensure that businesses like yours can have the employees with the skill set that you need to continue to thrive and make investments in this great state. So I'm going to start with roads. I know you're shocked, right? All right, so Rebuilding Michigan. Last week, I announced during the State of the State my Rebuilding Michigan plan to fix our most highly traveled state roads and freeways. And I highlight state roads and freeways because to move forward without a legislature that has really pushed forward some real meaningful investment in roads, I can move forward unilaterally, but it is going to be focused on our state roads, and that is the way that bonds are constructed. So the State Transportation Commission, the morning after I made this announcement in my State of the State, took a vote 6-0 to adopt this plan so that we can get started. And I highlight that because this is something that is not a partisan issue. Despite the fact that I had a hard time getting the legislature to get serious about solving the road problem that we have in Michigan, this Transportation Commission, 5 of whom were appointees of my predecessor, Governor Snyder's, voted unanimously to adopt this plan. And I think that that's an important piece because fixing potholes is not partisan. Rebuilding our infrastructure should not be partisan. So I'm proud of how that worked. Now, Rebuilding Michigan does 4 things. First, we're going to keep drivers safe. Our number 1 priority is the safety of our citizens. Right now, our infrastructure is dangerous, and this gives us the ability to start reconstructing roads now. This will help keep drivers safe, and it will also ensure that our bridges, in addition to roads, we start to rebuild bridges as well. And we know that that is a critical piece of our infrastructure that's been suffering from a lack of long-term investment. Number 2, this will actually help us save money in the long run. Last year when I introduced my budget, I put a real user fee mechanism that actually would have solved the problem. And the legislature not only didn't embrace it, but they didn't offer any sort of a meaningful alternative. And so we've come to the conclusion that we cannot wait for that to happen. We have to get started. By getting started now through this bond, we actually save money in the long run. We have so many roads that need to be reconstructed that another layer isn't going to be smart financially. Locking in low interest rates now with the low level of bonding debt that we have is a fiscally prudent thing to do in terms of managing this enormous statewide asset. But it'll save us money on the budget side. It'll also help families and businesses save money because we'll be spending less to fix our cars every single day. Or I'm sorry, not every single, I hope you're not fixing your cars every single day, for every single one of us. It'll give us a position that we can get to work right now, which is really important. At the rate that our roads are deteriorating, this is quickly getting out of hand, and this gives us the chance to bring in the dollars so that we can put people to work immediately to start to address the problem. And it's financing, it is not funding. Anyone who says otherwise hasn't been paying attention. This is financing, it's a smart way to finance, but it does not require an increase at the pump, so we can get started immediately. Now, I've heard people ask a lot of questions about this, and I welcome that because I think the more you learn about how this works, the more you will appreciate why this is the right thing to do right now, especially in this climate. When and if the legislature wants to get serious and come to the table and have a long-term road funding conversation, I invite and I welcome that moment. But until that happens, we're going to continue to press forward everything I can to start meeting this need. And I encourage everyone here to become absolutely engaged and informed on this issue because I need your help on all of these fronts to make sure that we do it and we do it right. I just wanted to use this map so that you could see how many arteries in the metropolitan Detroit area are going to be rebuilt. We are not bonding for short-term fixes, we are bonding for long-term assets. That's why this is the smartest way to move forward now. And you can see that it's going to make a meaningful improvement on the roads here in Southeast Michigan. We are going to be focused on the roads that are the most heavily traveled and in the worst condition. That is how we prioritize the dollars that are going through this bonding program. Yesterday, we introduced the state budget. I've addressed roads on that front, and now we're moving forward on the state budget. Rebuilding the roads and freeways is one part of making sure that in 2020 we're doing the things that I ran on, that I know people are counting on. But yesterday we introduced a budget that improves education and skills training. It protects and expands health care for families, cleans up our drinking water, and combats climate change. These are the dinner table issues that I hear from people all across our state. So coupled with the Rebuilding Michigan plan, we are moving forward on an agenda that is really geared toward helping families and helping businesses be successful here in Michigan. Now, I wanted to just show you a couple pieces of the general fund budget because setting priorities is critically important so you can see what it is that we're trying to do. But you can see that more than 80% of our general fund appropriations in 2021 budget are to protect and expand health care, improve public education, protect vulnerable children and adults, as well as public safety. And it totals $11 billion. That's the general fund piece of the budget. I want you to see the challenge that we are confronting as a state. This is how this budget, general fund, shapes up compared to the budgets over the last 20 years. And you can see it's just about the same size. This is important because while the cost of everything else has increased over that same 20-year period, our ability to deliver the crucial state services has not grown at all. And so this is the challenge that we have, and this is precisely what inspired me to lead last year with a real fix to take roads out of the general fund so that these precious dollars could be spent meeting the fundamental needs. Unfortunately, we weren't successful, so that's why I wanted you to see we're doing everything we can to prioritize the limited dollars that we have. Had that general fund kept up with inflation, this is just keeping up with inflation, we'd have over $5 billion more to be working with. What is that number there? What is it, Chris? 5.5, so $5.5 billion. More to invest in roads, more to invest in higher education to bring down the cost of a four-year degree, more to respond to green ooze and other threats to our drinking water, more to address, lakeshore erosion, which I know people are focused on, but I'm more focused on the old lead pipes bringing water into homes and the old infrastructure underneath our ground. This is what we are missing in terms of opportunity and opportunity cost of missing it. So this slide, I think, is to show that we have a number of obstacles. Despite, I think, a budget that I am very proud of that prioritizes the right things, we're very sober with regard to what we are confronting. At the end of lame duck in 2018, the legislature went on a spending spree and spent over $1.3 billion in the last day of session. You couple that with a lot of lawsuits that I am now the defendant on from the previous administration that the bill is going to come due on my watch. And that is going to be a sizable issue that we are going to have to confront as a state. And then the $2 billion that is regularly diverted from the general fund for other purposes. And I just wanted to highlight this so that you could see all of the different pressures that we're trying to navigate as well as we set the agenda for Michigan. So we're hopeful that this cycle, unlike last, we get a budget done on time, that it is properly negotiated, and that we get it done in such fashion that our schools and our municipalities can write their budgets knowing what they have to work with. So this is the timeline that we have set up. That July 1st date is really important because as I signed the final budget bills into law at the end of last year, one of the bills was a bill to require that the legislature get budgets to me by July 1st. Schools and municipalities, their fiscal years start then, and that's why I think that date is critical. I see the mayor of Dearborn nodding his head with me right there. So on the education front, when we prioritize education in this budget, it really reflects our commitment to a weighted foundation allotment. The weighted foundation allotment is driven by the science of the School Research Collaborative that tells us that kids in higher poverty districts need more wraparound services to have a level playing field and have the same kind of outcomes that kids elsewhere do. We've been underfunding education, period. But we know that this is exacerbated by formulas that don't really meet the needs of our students. And so last year I introduced a budget with a weighted foundation allowance so that we could have equity built into the education of our kids. We were successful. I had to negotiate with the legislature, so it wasn't as bold as what I had introduced, but it does reflect a weighted foundation. We work off of that and include an additional $415 million to continue building on that weighted foundation allowance formula. This year also under this budget, we have our prioritized teachers. So many teachers in Michigan are spending their own dollars on supplies for their classroom, and so we built in $250 per teacher for purchasing supplies for the classroom. We thought this was a way to help the teachers in a way that inured to the benefit of our kids whom they are teaching. And third, we expanded preschool to thousands of children across the state. And most specifically here in Detroit, there will be universal preschool offered for 4-year-olds in the city of Detroit. And that's something that we've worked on closely with the mayor and Dr. Beatty, and that is something that is really important to our success, but the success of the children, most importantly. And funding for literacy. Last year, we tripled the number of literacy coaches across our state. This year, we are working to ensure that our teachers have the resources they need to meet our kids' needs and to identify which students need additional help in the pursuit of just becoming a reader by the end of 3rd grade. On jobs and the economy, let's talk a little bit about the agenda that I announced last year to create jobs and to grow our economy. We've made a lot of announcements in terms of investment in the state of Michigan over the last year, and I am thrilled about that. The Michigan Mobility Challenge is something that we announced with the advent of the auto show going to the summer. We thought this is a great opportunity for us to highlight mobility options that are becoming more and more frequent here in Michigan. And so the Mobility Challenge is a part of this year's auto show, and it's going to give us a chance to showcase some of the great cutting-edge advancements in mobility that are happening here in Michigan. Since I took office, we've announced 11,000 new auto jobs. That's 5 times more than the previous year and the most the MEDC has ever announced in a single year in the history of the MEDC. FCA, Ford, GM, all have made critical investments here in Michigan. There was a point in time when we thought DHAM was going to be on the closure list, and now it is going to be the most technologically advanced facility that General Motors has on the planet. This is a great thing for our state and for all of the additional investment that comes as a result of that. We've included $35 million in my budget for the bipartisan Michigan Reconnect series of bills, which is a program to provide tuition-free pathways for adults who are looking to upskill and earn a post-secondary certificate or degree. This is something that we modeled after what's worked in Tennessee. I have bipartisan sponsors of these bills, but I do need your help to make sure we get them to my desk. This will make a meaningful improvement in our goal to get to 60% of our adult population with a post-secondary certificate or degree by 2030. And my budget includes funding to expand access to child care services for thousands of Michigan kids. We know that a stronger workforce depends on quality, affordable child care, and this is something that we've prioritized in this budget as well. Also, in Jobs and the Economy, I want to highlight Representative Wendell Bird, who has a bill on his Pay As You Stay. It's to help 31,000 eligible Detroiters avoid foreclosure and stay in their homes. This is a bill that will ensure that Wayne County residents and Detroiters who owe back property taxes avoid foreclosure, and it will help residents have a path to home ownership, so a safe, secure future. And this is something that I know that the County Executive Warren Evans, Mayor Duggan, and Representative Bird have been working on, and I would enlist your help to try to support the legislature to get this to my desk as well. It will make a meaningful improvement for people here in metropolitan Detroit. And finally, I want to talk about healthcare. Let me see, I said finally. Nope, almost finally. I spoke about my healthcare priorities in the State of the State address, and this budget will help us achieve a number of the goals that I outlined last week. We are making sure that more Michigan seniors have the ability to age in their homes with dignity. We're reining in the cost of prescription drugs by creating a preferred drug list to save taxpayers and patients money. The budget also will have 12 weeks of paid parental leave for state workers if they become a new parent by having a newborn or adopting a child. This mirrors what the Trump administration and Congress have done on behalf of federal employees, and I hope that we can use this as a model to show how important this is in the workplaces and expand it hopefully into the private sector. These priorities will help keep our families safe and healthy as we improve care for people across Michigan. And one aspect of it was healthy moms and healthy babies. You know, my budget included funding for this program to help ensure that every Michigander who chooses to have a baby has the resources they need for a healthy pregnancy, a healthy delivery, and healthy postpartum care. Right now, Black women in Michigan have 3 times more likely rate of death compared to white women. I said this stat in the State of the State, and I was amazed of how few people even knew that that was reality. I was amazed at how few people questioned whether or not that was true. Right now, Black women and babies have, disparate outcomes, and it's a crucial issue that we are going to tackle. It's why I've made maternal mortality a priority for our state, and why I think it's important that we address implicit bias. I have gotten Dr. Gregory over at DMC and Dr. Rash, who is the Dean of the Nursing School at Michigan State, to start to convene and address implicit bias, and I think this is something that's really important. And I hope that everyone in this room will take it upon yourselves to get active on this front, because I am going to have some difficulty with the legislature to ensure that the budget really reflects these goals, but it's important for women and babies in our state that we do. We need to work faster to change the culture and care of delivery, and this is something that I think we can make great strides on. With a little focus and a little effort, we'll have massive outcomes for our moms and babies. And finally, now I am on finally, the environment. The budget prioritizes cleaning up drinking water and battling the harmful effects of climate change so we can continue to build a stronger, more sustainable future for our kids and Michigan generations to come. It includes $40 million for school infrastructure, which is grants to schools, districts to ensure that students have a safe and healthy learning environment. There's $40 million for climate resilient infrastructure projects so local communities can combat issues caused by climate change like high water levels, and $2.5 million for the Milliken Visitor Center, which is going to be in honor of Governor Milliken, who served our state with incredible dignity and was passionate about protecting our Great Lakes. This will be at Arch Rock on Mackinac Island in his honor of his environmental stewardship and leadership for our state. So, in conclusion, I ran on fixing the dam roads. I ran on improving public education and closing the skills gap, protecting and expanding healthcare, and cleaning up our drinking water. Between rebuilding Michigan and this budget, we are making incredible investments on all of these fronts, which means we are going to have real results that improve the quality of life for people in this state. I need your help to make sure we get this done. I know everyone who's made an investment in Michigan, whether it's moving here as a resident or as someone who's built a business here and employs a lot of hardworking Michiganders. I need everyone to be a part of getting this done because every one of us will benefit when we are successful. Thank you so much for giving me a few minutes of your time today. Thank you.
Okay, in the pure democratic way, I'm looking at the iPad, the special iPad of the Detroit Economic Club, where Steve has the only password. But a couple of questions, Governor, and this is the most asked question on the list, too. It's interesting. Regarding the coronavirus, and I know the states, we're a huge trading partner with China, and there's a lot going on. But I know there are things going in the department, if you want to talk about that a little bit.
So we are working closely with our partners on the federal government level. We had a call recently with the Secretary. Michigan was designated, DTW was designated as an airport where we are equipped for intake, and it's a testament to what we are capable of and what we have at our disposal here. There have been no confirmed cases of coronavirus in the state of Michigan, but we are harnessing the incredible resources that we have as a state to offer to ensure that we keep the public informed, that we are addressing the issue as we confront it. And I am glad that Michigan is one of the states that was tasked with doing this because I've got incredible confidence in our ability to do that. But we are making efforts to ensure that we have real-time information that we are able to share with the public. I think that this is something that is very concerning. And as I head to Washington, D.C. this weekend is the National Governors Association meeting. We have meetings at the White House as well. I know that I will be getting more real-time information that I will be able to share as things develop on this serious issue. I'm having dinner at the White House. I'll be curious to see where I'm seated this year. Last year I was seated at the head table next to President Trump. I don't know. This year I might be closer to the door.
Governor, can you speak a little bit towards the importance, there's been a lot of conversation about block grants with Medicaid and the expansion that's come in Michigan and how important that is to continue, or whether block grants are the answer. You know, there's a lot of controversy around that.
Interesting that you're asking this question.
No, it came off the list.
I think that we've done some great things here in Michigan, and something that I highlight all the time and always give credit to Governor Snyder for staking out the will and the plan to expand Medicaid in Michigan. I think that it's been an important success for a lot of reasons, whether it's in the individual lives of people that now have coverage who didn't before. I've met Michiganders who hadn't been to a doctor before, who were now because they finally have access to some affordable health care. And I know what it's meant in terms of our ability to improve the quality of life for people in our state. But nothing's perfect. And I think my greatest fear is that these challenges in court wipe out the strides that we've made and that we are left trying to pick up the pieces. And that's why in the State of the State, I called on the legislature to codify some of the protections in the Affordable Care Act into our state law in the event that that happens. With regard to, some of our efforts to address additional needs in that space, I think we've had a pretty good working relationship with the Trump administration where we've needed to get waivers and open up a dialogue. I still am very concerned about the work requirements that were enacted before I became governor, that they're not really going to improve the outcomes for people when it's really taking health care away from people who need it. If it was really about getting people to work, we would have made it easier to have transportation to work or child care or ability to close skills gaps. And so this is one of my personal reservations. This too is also in court. And so ultimately, I think that a lot of these decisions are going to be handed to us from our court system where we really should be insisting that our leaders in Washington, D.C. improve the Affordable Care Act where there are shortcomings.
And last question, I think I can speak, at least I hope I can speak for most Michiganders, that it was really a proud moment to watch you give the response, whatever your politics are. The fact that the governor of our state was tapped to give the response to the State of the Union was pretty cool, but I'm sure everybody in the room wants some scoop on how it all worked, so. My chief of staff had let me know a couple days before the call came in that the speaker wanted me to do the State of the Union response. And what was my reaction? And I said, well, I feel a little nauseated, to tell you the truth. She said, well, I want you to think about it because the call may be coming. And so the call certainly did, and I had had a little bit of time to think about what that would mean. And I know that it can be terribly, hard thing for people to do, and to do it without coming off as a meme or a Saturday Night Live skit. And my mind frame was always, I'm not looking for national attention, but if there's an opportunity to highlight what's going on in Michigan, what we care about, call to decency, I'll take that opportunity on behalf of our state. So the speaker called and asked me to do it, and of course I obviously said yes. And it was interesting because the advice that she gave to me, there were a couple things. One was she didn't want it to be attacking the president, which I was glad to hear because that's not my style anyway. I don't think that that's productive, but I was glad to know that that's what she would have told anyone she was asking to do this response. And also she said, go somewhere you're comfortable. And so choosing East Lansing High School where my kids go to school and having a lot of my hometown sitting in the audience, I think is what kept me feeling loose when I gave the speech and comfortable. And I think that was probably the most important part of doing it, and doing it so in a way that I'm not a Saturday Night Live skit. Even the Speaker of the House, Lee Chatfield, sent me the meme of Marco Rubio grabbing his water out of frame when he gave it. So people were giving me a little hard time. Well, great. Steve, we're going to bring you back up. Governor, thank you very much.
So a quick announcement before we adjourn. If you liked today's program, and we certainly hope you did, you can experience it tomorrow by downloading it as an audio podcast on your phone, and then also you can see it on DEC's website and Detroit Public TV's website. So Governor Whitmer, thank you for your service to our state and for your thought leadership at the Detroit Economic Club. Dan Lepp, thanks for being an important part of the program today. Ladies and gentlemen, we hope you will join us for a strolling lunch downstairs, and we ask you just to please exit via the center doors. Thank you for coming today, on time, every time. The Detroit Economic Club meeting is now adjourned. Thank you.